Guys, this week's First Chapter Friday is The Clackity, which I know you love your supernatural and horror, so it is a supernatural horror book. Chapter 1. There was no shortage of otherworldly concerns in Blight Harbor, mainly because it was the seventh most haunted town in America per capita. Nearly everyone had a ghost living in their house or knew someone who did. And we all steered clear of the pair of seats in the movie theater that were always taken, and the streetlight on Derry Road that flickered if you stood under it at night and told a lie. There was the mirror in the town hall foyer that refused to reflect anything, which worked out really just fine because we were all pretty sure that the mayor was descended from a long line of vampires on her maternal grandmother's side. Although the mayor's husband was a regular guy named Steve. There were 100 other things about Blight Harbor to worry about if you weren't used to them, but most of them were basically harmless. Most of them, anyway. Which is why it is so strange that the only things bugging me this morning were the ordinary kind, as in A, how late I was going to be to my summer job, volunteering at the library, and B, how completely frustrating my Aunt Desdemona was acting at breakfast. It wasn't as if we both didn't have places to be. Aunt Des had ghosts to dispel or poltergeist to ward off of something, and I had to get to the library. But she insisted we sit down for eggs and toast, which meant we were both going to be late. Being late was on my list of things that made my hands get all sweaty and my leg bounce like it had a mind of its own. I mean, it was nowhere near heights, but lateness was somewhere between tight spaces and public speaking. Since I didn't like sweaty hands or fidgety legs, I was pretty much never late for anything. So I sat waiting for the toast to pop, steaming just like my eggs under their fogged up frying pan lid, and opened Friday's newspaper to the third page of the community section. There it was, top right hand corner, like clockwork. Dear Desdemona, it's not a ghoul, it's a gift. Aunt Dee's advice column had been running for a couple of months, and almost immediately it had expanded from space available to twice weekly. Even after living there their whole lives in Blight Harbor, there were still plenty of people who couldn't figure out how to solve their supernatural problems on their own, which meant there were plenty of letters and emails coming in for Aunt Dee. Over the top of my newspaper, Aunt Dee finally handed me toast, soggy eggs, yogurt, and a cup of tea, all balanced on a china plate that felt like it might fall apart if a bell rang too loudly. At the sight of the weak tea, I sighed dramatically. Can I please have coffee? Not that Des ever actually lets me drink coffee, but it doesn't stop me from trying. Aunt Dee shook her head without even looking at me. Evelyn, tea is much more interesting than coffee. A good cup of tea makes you more centered. Coffee just jangles your nerves and makes you unpleasant. Aunt Dee put a hand on my bouncing knee to calm it and raised a see what I mean eyebrow at me. Besides, you're too young, she said. Well, you're like 50, so you shouldn't drink coffee because it will keep you up past your bedtime. It wasn't my best comeback, I know. Aunt Dee turned to me in mock horror. Evelyn Von Wraith, I will have you know that I am turning 46 next month, which makes me nearly 4 times your age, which means you are 4 times wiser, and I should listen to your sage advice, I finished for her. I'd heard it a million times. I loved my Aunt Des for lots of reasons, including how predictable she could be when she was in full-on responsible adult in charge mode. I also loved how easy it was to tease her about it. Correct. Aunt Dee sat down on her chair to my right. How's the paper this morning? Her big brown eyes actually sparkled in the morning sun. Sometimes she was like a cartoon character, a really annoying one who believed in hearty breakfast. Hold on, I'm getting to the good part, I said, and I pulled the paper higher so I didn't have to watch her watch me read. Today's column went like this. The Blight Harbor Herald. Dear Desdemona, I am in a bad spot and need your help. When I relocated to Blight Harbor, I was unaware of the town's reputation. Since moving into my new house, I've seen things shifting out of the corner of my eye, but they're gone when I try to look at them. I hear sounds, maybe people, moving in the empty rooms. I feel breezes when the windows are closed. Desdemona, I live alone and have no pets, but I think I might have ghosts. I'm convinced my house is haunted. I am so scared I can't sleep, and I'm keeping lights on around the clock. Please help. Sincerely, Afraid of the Dark. Dearest Afraid, All the events you have described are classic signs of a domestic haunting. Without having visited your home, I feel quite comfortable confirming that your house is, in fact, infested. Such signs lead me to believe that there is more than one specter, and while I have no reason to assume your otherworldly housemates are threatening, I encourage you to research the history of your home and the land beneath it. If more than 2 murders occurred there, you may have something to be concerned about. Please know this: there is no reason to fear the dark. Any paranormal being wishing to harm you in the nighttime is just as capable of doing so during the day. All electric lights make absolutely no difference. Night simply heightens our senses, and often our fear, making us more sensitive to the supernatural. Night is not to be dreaded any more or less than the day. I suggest a soothing cup of tea before bed, and perhaps leave 1 or 2 cups out for your roommates. I hope this brings you great peace and allows you to sleep more soundly. Welcome to Blight Harbor. Kindest regards, Desdemona von Wraith. After I finished the column, I rested the paper on the table next to my breakfast. It's pretty good. I was actually super proud of Des. She never seemed afraid of failing or of what other people thought of her. I kept hoping that some of that confidence would rub off on me, but I was too irritated about running late to tell her any of that right then. Auntie's carefully shaped eyebrows nearly touched as concern scrunched her face. Just pretty good. Did I come off as too stuffy or formal? I really wanted to address the seriousness of the concern without overdoing it. People can be so sensitive about their otherworldly conditions. No, no, no. Dang it, not only had I hurt her feelings, but I was going to be extra late to the library if this kept on. My hands were getting clammy just thinking about it. No, I said. It was good. It was great, actually. I really was trying here. I'm sure Afraid feels tons better about moving to Blight Harbor. Thank you, Evie. Aunt Desdemona smiled distractedly as she put her long-nailed fingers in my hair. They got stuck as she tried to comb through, but she said, "Can we at least brush your mane before we go?" No time. I jumped up, shoving toast dipped in strawberry yogurt into my mouth. I washed it all down with the most of the tepid tea, secretly hoping that Dee was right that it would settle me down. I gotta get back to the library before Lily freaks out, I said. I slung my backpack over my shoulder, kissed my aunt on the top of her mass of dark curls, and headed for the front door. Women would kill for that copper hair of yours, Dee called after me. Let me shave it, I said, and they can have it. Oh, no, Aunt Dee said. Just the underneath. It can stay long on top. No, you can be as weird as you want once you're 13. You're weird, I called back as I slammed the door behind me. I stopped in my tracks. Goodbyes were important, and that one was just no good. But I was already late, and a few more seconds wouldn't make that much of a difference. I threw the door back open and didn't bother closing it. I wasn't going to be in the house long. I ran to Des, who was still sitting at the table, and wrapped my arms around her thin shoulders. I love you, Aunt Dee, I said. She leaned her head against my cheek. Love you too, sweet girl. That was better. We never parted without saying I love you. It was a rule, my rule, because you could never know. You always think you're going to see someone again, but really, truly, you never know. And all of the worries on my list, I guess this was the one that scared me the most. All right, there's actually a little more to chapter 1, but I'm not going to continue on because it's kind of a long chapter. So again, supernatural, kind of action adventure-y. It's going to be great for you if you love horror. So come by the library and check out the Clackity.